But there's some other key indicators that I think should be on, that blood test or that blood panel test for African Americans, because that we're more susceptible to certain other types of diseases as our counterparts.
Yeah.
So,
and the stress of racism is deteriorating our bodies, but I
absolutely.
digress.
Right. Absolutely.
But it's true. Like it is true. There are studies on this, like the stress of racism creates worse health outcomes. And so when people say like, oh, Black people, they're getting more aggressive cancers or getting them earlier, I wonder why that is.
I wonder why.
Racismo.
I'm under stress. I'm always on the lookout. I'm always, where my level of comfort might, should be at a 2, but because I'm not sure what's going to happen today, I'm at a 7. Yeah. So, I'm operating out of a 7 all the time because I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what's happening here. Or I got to be, have my guard up when I walk into the store or, and that level of just constant cortisol. I mean, I'm probably going left a little bit, but I just think of myself, that fight or flight, hormone that's always prevalent for me. Let me speak for Kim. I'm just like always like, okay, when can I really let my cortisol just drop and just be at a normal, hey, unless the only time that's really happening is if I'm at home. Yeah. But other than that, as soon as I step out that door, whoop.
Yeah.
I'm operating at a 7.
You know what? So as you talk about like trying to pay attention to conditions and symptoms and, try to sound the alarm when things just aren't right. Mm-hmm. If you're constantly in this fight or flight, or if you're in this heightened state, it can be hard to pay attention to things that are going on with you. And so like I was having symptoms for 3 years. And when you look back on it, like 1 + 1 start equaling 2 and you start seeing like, and as I was telling my doctors about it, like very casually, like I was 32 or 30 around the time I told my doctor, I was like, I feel like I'm having incontinence.
Right.
She's like, oh, maybe you're just working and you're not paying attention to when you have to use the bathroom. I was like, no, I feel like I'm like too young to be having these pee emergencies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So then it kind of gets a little brushed off. And then I'm like, oh, I'm having some pain here, whatever. Fast forward, the incontinence, the pain, all that was because there was a tumor compressing my spinal cord, which was impacting all these functions. And so it's just like, I think sometimes in hindsight, the symptoms make sense, but I go back and I look at, well, I did know that there was something like not right about this. And then you just kind of like,
if it's not persistent or if it's not impeding on something that you have to do or keeping you from doing something, you kind of do brush it off. And I think that's just us as a people, because we're groomed to keep it moving. You got to keep moving forward. You got to make sure this gets done. You can't fall behind on whatever, just in our culture, so to speak, that's just how we're groomed. So unfortunately, we don't pay attention to some of those subtle things that, you might want to keep a diary of, so to speak. Okay. So, this has been happening for a week. That's not normal. Because we also have that internal instinct that does nudge us and tell us, hey, something's not right. And we just have to listen to that inner voice, that inner nudge that tells us that. But too often we just ignore it.
Yeah. That's so real. So do you think your mom was kind of going through that besides the Target stuff and the trip? Like, were you kind of noticing things over time and brushing it off, or like as the outsider to that, right? Because you don't know what she's feeling. So unless she tells you, or it physically manifests, like with the dinner where you're like, yo, something's happening.
So I think it had been going on, but then also remember, we're a people of faith. So if something were happening, we prayed on it, so, if she was really having a really bad day or felt sick, then that means we're going to the throne of grace. We are going to pray about this, and the Lord is going to heal whatever it is. And that's going to be the end of it. So I think a lot of that had to do with it, just keeping it all the way 100. We because that's the type of the way that we were raised, and my mom was a woman of faith and my father is a man of faith, like wholeheartedly. They believe in it. They're not to the extreme where, you know, they won't go to the doctors because God's going to heal you of everything. You know, they have common sense, but by the same token, you know, if something were, you know, really going bad and it was out of the ordinary, because it's out of the ordinary and it may not have been something that she had been experiencing ongoing, then that prayer is going up, you know. Okay, Lord, you're Jehovah Rapha, you're going to heal me of this, blah, 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 blah. Your word says blah, 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 blah. So if that was the case, that's most likely what happened in the beginning, until that stuffing did not get made. You know, until that stuffing had to be pushed off to one of us, one of the girls.
You're like, wait, I gotta make the stuffing. Nah, we're going to emergency room today.
And exactly. And now my niece wants to make the potato salad. Okay, something's going down. Something's wrong.
You know, it's interesting because, like, when we think about faith, you know, I come from a family of believers. I have strayed from that, but I'm not going to talk about that on a podcast. Got it. Understood. But there's a space where, like, your faith can actually help the process, right? And so as you talk about, like, and I think I might start doing this. I never even thought about this. Like, you have food diaries, but think about, like, pain and health diary, like, hey, I'm noticing something today, and just kind of jotting it down. At the same time, when you're praying on something, you're actually spending an extended period of time thinking about it, talking about it, bringing other people into the fold and praying for, like, oh, you know, I have a pain in my side. Right. That could actually bring more attention to what's happening to you, right? On the flip side, it could be a hindrance in that you prayed and you're good. Like, and that was the end of the journey. And so I think people can, I'm not saying, like, having faith in, like, absolutely not, but it's like, how can you use that in concert with really trying to help your situation, right? It's a fine line. I think we talked about it before, and that's why I use it in tandem. You know, I use my faith in tandem with the common sense that I do have and the knowledge that I do have in medicine, because there is a plus in that. You know, there might be some things that we might all have difference of opinions in, but more often than not, there usually is some type of remedy or some type of fix for whatever it is. You know, we're not going to put cancer in that, but other things, like if you know you have a headache, maybe you need to take some Excedrin, or if you have migraines, you know, there's other things. But I use my faith in tandem, and I use my faith when there is an impossibility. You know, that's where I feel like my faith, and I'm using this gingerly and saying this loosely, that it kicks in, because my faith is always there. But however, my faith can kick in right at that point where I know there's something impossible, so that I need the God that I serve to step in. Oh, not that he hasn't been, but I need that supernatural. You know, it's like this is emergency button, like whatever you are working on right now, God. I need you right now.
Exactly. Because, you know, I know he's there, but however, this medicine isn't working, God. So either can you work through the medicine or do something supernatural to help this along.
I mean, it means a lot to me to even just listen to you and have these words kind of wash over me, because it's so consistent with all the prayers that people had for me, and like constant prayer. And it just, one, I think it puts me in a state of calm, but it also gives that faith that, like, listen, miracles can happen, things can happen. You actually really do not know what's going to happen next. And so where do you put that if not in God, right? Like, where do you put that? And I remember, you know, navigating my own journey, I would just break down crying sometimes, because I was just like, I wish I had that. Like, for me, like in my own journey, I see my sisters, I see my cousins, like my contemporaries that literally are falling on their knees, praying for me, like putting all of their faith and trust in God. And I just like, thank you so much for doing that for me, because I am not personally even all the way there. And so I felt kind of lost sometimes, and then relied on my faith and my family's faith to really push me through.
Yeah, you have to do that. They are standing in proxy for you. Because sometimes you're not there. I mean, what you just said is real. You're not all the way there. So because you're not, God allows other people to kind of stand in proxy for you to help you get through it, or take that burden on for you, you know? And I find that does help, exactly what you just said, you know, because my mom at times was too weak to do anything. And we would call her like the prayer warrior. Like, and she really was. It felt like, you know, if we needed to get a prayer through, we're going to call mommy.
Oh,
because mommy has the right words. She know how to speak to the Satan. She know how to speak to the devil and any other demon that thinks they're going to come and invade. It was like she had the perfect words and the perfect, you know, ambiance, so to speak, you know, that guess what? You can't stay here, because if you tried to stay here, whatever it was, illness, demon, whoever, you can't stay here, because Carolyn spoke those words and she meant that. She quoted from the, you know, from the word of God, and that was it. So I understand what you're saying, you know.
I love
when
that.
you get those folks that can stand in proxy for you and kind of invade and bombard heaven for you, then hey, by all means, thank you. Because we're not always there. We're always not, you know, if we're all honest, none of us are there 100% of the time. And I would probably venture to say 75% of the time, you know, especially when you have those type of traumas and things that come in your life, it does make you question your faith. Big time. Because I'm telling you now, just even presently, I'm like, you hit me with this one, Lord. Like you like, you know, my mom wasn't even sick like that. Like why she had to go, you know. I can see if she was unto death and we were, you know, looking for her to expire soon or within the next couple months. That was not the case. This came out of nowhere. And she just moved, and we're all looking forward to that. And then this came, and like she moved April 30th, and then she goes in the hospital May 5th. And then she does not return home. Yeah. Okay. That knocked us all off of our rockers. Yeah. I'm still struggling. You know, I'm like, all right, Lord, I know who you are, but